Hi there, and welcome to the 63rd OctoPrint on Air. I'm your host, Gina Höske. As usual, there's still no V in there. And yeah, just like always, we are going to talk today about what I've been up to and what are the next steps. And before I get started, I just want to tell you that this might be a bit of a shorter one because I'm slightly under the weather. I'm not sure if it's allergies or what it is, but yeah, my sinuses are somewhat clogged. So if I sound weird, that is also the reason for that. And so I'm trying to keep that a bit short and not get into ranting or something like that. So yeah, but I still wanted to give you an update now and not push it back even further. So let's get started on that. What I've been up to. So you might have noticed that I might have jinxed myself last time because in the last one of these I said, I just pushed out the third release candidate of 1.11.0 and that is looking like a good one and I hope that will be the final one and I hope that I can release sometime next week or the week after, and then 4 more release candidates followed. The 4th one on March 11th, the 5th one on March 18th, the 6th one on April the 1st, and the 7th one on April 3rd. And the reason for that is that during testing, you all and primarily Jim discovered some bugs and regressions. For example, there was an issue with the new auto discovery of assets that is now in OctoPrint's asset plugin mix-in, integrated in OctoPrint's asset plugin mix-in as of 1.11. Which, if you don't tell it what kind of assets you have in your plugin, it will collect them automatically and such. The problem was that could not handle Windows paths properly. So if you were running OctoPrint under Windows, then the assets of plugins utilizing that new functionality, which currently is only the newly included health check plugin, but will most likely be more in the future, would not be able to load their assets. So no view models, no CSS, no custom JS, no nothing in the front end. And that, of course, was something that could not stay this way. Then we had a big bug in the reauthentication logic. That actually was a bug that was already present in 1.10, but changes in 1.11 made it trigger way more often with the situation or with the result that if you had to reauthenticate in OctoPrint would first completely lock you out. Normally, the reauthentication is supposed to just show you a password dialog and you enter your password and you can continue to use OctoPrint as usual. You are not supposed to see a full-blown login dialog there where you can also also have to enter your username again. That was a bug. So if you encountered that in the past and thought, what a stupid reauthentication method, yeah, indeed, that was a bug. And as I said, that was also present in 1.10, but due to some race conditions, this would not always trigger. So in this case, basically 2 bad things would create 1 good thing. In 1.11, things got a bit got a bit refactored and changed around, and that resulted in these race conditions no longer triggering, with the result that you would actually get locked out, and then you would always have to log in again, and that is obviously very annoying and not something that can go into the field like that in a stable version. So that had also needed to get fixed. Then we had some unintended side effects of some new functionality here and there as well that needed fixing. And I also spotted some warnings in the logs that I had overseen previously, and that got also fixed. So that now brings us to release candidate number 7, out for over a week at the time of recording this, which I'm doing on Friday, April 11th. And yeah, I have to admit that it is very annoying and frustrating to have to go through so many more RC releases after I thought I was done. But on the other hand, I mean, this is what the release candidate phase is actually for, finding and fixing as much as possible so that doesn't end up in the stable version and annoys people there. And so, yeah, the process worked. It was just annoying to be part of the process or to have to manage the process because, yeah, as a small reminder, every single release candidate means at least a day of round trip time for me because of all of the testing that I have to do, of all of the writing of change logs and such. So, yeah, if it's only one little bug fix, it can be boiled down to maybe around half a day. But if it's more than that, you can count on 1 day of work being part of that. That also is the case for stable releases. Actually, even more there, because there I also do way more aggressive testing before I even start the whole release process. Because we don't have a release candidate phase there to be able to push out bug fixes as soon as possible. So yeah, nervous. Yeah, so in the hopes I don't jinx this further. Yeah, I'm really worried to say this now, but release candidate 7 has now been out for a week, and right now it looks good that it actually might be the last one for good this time. And yeah, normally I would have prepared to release it next week. So the week starting on April the 14th, if I'm not mistaken, around April 14th or April 15th. The problem is that would put the release right before the Easter weekend. And that is something I want to really avoid. In general, I try to avoid pushing out releases right before bigger holidays and also international considered holidays. And with the case of Easter, it's also actually a public holiday in Germany. So in a way, this is also for my own sake that I try to avoid that stuff. So instead of doing it next week, the goal is now to push it out in the week after, so around April 22nd or 23rd, something like this. If nothing else gets unearthed that needs handling before the release can actually happen, wish me luck that it won't. Okay, so what else did I do? I also continued work on what is going to be 1.12.0. I continued my refactoring that I mentioned last time. Just as a summary, there's a new layer that I'm adding in between the COM layer and basically the printer object inside OctoPrint that will allow to swap connectors, printer connectors, basically. So the current existing connector is the one that talks to the existing COM layer via serial to your printer. But with this refactoring and this new connector layer in there, it means that we can now swap out connectors and write connectors that interface with completely different protocols, with completely different printers, with also maybe with proprietary interfaces if someone figures out how to do that. So this connector layer that is done, that works. At least, I mean, there's probably still some bugs in there, but I can print through it and I can connect, and everything that should work works. The tests are green, everything is fine. Connection parameters that are needed in order to create the connection are now something that are set through a new custom template type. So for the serial connection, for example, we have a template that contains the serial connection parameters that like port and baud rate. And different kinds of connectors can then just provide a different kind of template and with special markups on the input fields, and that will result in the connector getting the right parameters to connect to the printer, actually. So that also means that it is now already possible to create plugins which provide additional connectors. So that part is done. That is working. The flexibility that I was hoping to achieve here is there, and I'm actually still a bit impressed that this worked so fast from the idea around Christmas to just basically 2 or 3 weeks of actually development work. I mean, yes, there has been more time since then, but most of that was spent on 1.11. So the actual development work that I could put into this refactoring, that was only 2 or 3 weeks maybe. One thing that is still not something that I'm happy with there is handling of printer files. So that stuff that is on Marlin printers is on the printer's SD card. That is currently something that has been a tech debt I've meant to clean up for years, but never got around to it, because currently inside OctoPrint, there's a lot of if-else branching going on, which checks if a file that you are trying to print is residing on the SD card of the printer or on your in your local uploads folder. And if it's residing on the SD card of the printer, it goes a completely different route through the whole backend than for uploaded files. And that is something that needs to change in order to make this whole connector thing work. So I'm currently working on finally making files that reside on the printer's SD card first-class citizens in OctoPrint's in the view of OctoPrint's file manager with a proper storage backend that in turn gets the connector of the current active printer connector injected, so it can query the files from the printer, write files to the printer. If the printer supports it, also download files from the printer, and do all of the management stuff, deletion, copy, move, and all of that, only if it is supported, and defining this interface in a way so that it actually allows to tell me the capabilities that it supports and such. That is something that I already pushed a lot of work in. And now I'm rewriting the whole the bits of OctoPrint with all of this if-else branching, where currently the SD card stuff is handled differently from the local upload folder. I'm making all of that work the same way, like going to the file manager of OctoPrint, getting the file information, pushing that as a job object over to the new to the printer, and telling the printer to print it. And that is already looking good, so I can select over this refactored stuff with all of these things ripped out and replaced with a proper storage layer. I can select files on the printer's SD card. I can actually also print them, but there is still some problem with the management stuff. So I think the last error that I ran in was either when I was trying to upload something or when I was trying to delete something. I can't remember right now because that was before the last 2 release candidates happened. And since then, I've just been busy with 1.11 again. But so that is basically what I need to do next is iron out the bugs in there and finish this. And then next steps can happen that I will go over later. But yeah, so that was a lot of work. But in actually not that much of time spent on it, because yeah, most of my time actually since the last recording of these was 1.11 and organization, maintenance, admin stuff surrounding everything. And only maybe a week or so on 1.12, but hey, progress is progress. Okay, so what else did I do? Apart from that, there was also, I finally got around to give the latest OctoPie release candidate a test. So Guy Scheffer is currently working on the next release of the OctoPie image. As a reminder, OctoPie is the ready-made Raspberry Pi image that contains OctoPrint and a webcam server and everything pre-configured and such. And OctoPrint is what I maintain, the thing that actually talks to your printer running on OctoPie, but could also run if you install it on some other Linux machine through OctoPrint deploy, or if you use the Windows installer by Jim, or if you manually install it on whatever system you have lying around. So just to clear that up, because that's a common cause of confusion around people. And yeah, OctoPrint and OctoPie are not the same thing. We have a whole FAQ entry on that. Please look it up if you're still confused. Anyhow, so Guy is working on the new OctoPie release, which will be based on a Raspberry Pi OS image on Debian Bookworm. Will also come with Raspberry Pi 5 support, though I have to say Raspberry Pi 5 for OctoPrint is just like, it's not the best idea. It's way overpowered and it lacks a hardware decoder for the video stuff. So on the one hand, it has a lot of CPU that you don't actually need for printing, but then you will probably require it anyhow for webcam streaming, which is a bit stupid if you can do all of this with a way less power-hungry device, actually. So yeah, I don't know why they decided to get rid of this hardware decoder. It's just encoder, whatever, you know. it's a bit annoying. And yeah, I'm personally, it's not my favorite device, favorite piece of hardware. My whole test rig is still on a Raspberry Pi 3, which is the minimum hardware that I recommend for running OctoPrint. That's just fine. Like, that works great. I have a Raspberry Pi 5 for testing, but it's not part of the test rig. Yeah. Okay, so anyhow, this image needed testing, and I have this whole test rig set up to do stuff like that automatically, so I fired it against that as well. And things are looking good on this. I also gave that feedback in the feedback ticket for the OctoPi image, but then I also tried to see what my OctoPi up-to-date customizer scripts would do with the new image, which, as a reminder, I have this OctoPi up-to-date thing that I maintain, which is basically a customized version of OctoPi, where OctoPrint is updated on always to the latest stable release. Also, where the kernel and the bootloader on the OS are always updated to this latest stable release, and some bugs that we find are also fixed already. And that is there because otherwise before that existed, when you downloaded OctoPi via the Raspberry Pi imager or directly from the page, you would get some outdated OctoPrint version, because I update more often than OctoPi does, and now we have an OctoPi image that updates itself basically through this OctoPi up-to-date scripting. With a tool that I wrote called Customizer, which is something that you can use to customize images like OctoPi without having to boot them. And that had some problems with the new bookworm image. So I had to first patch Customizer a bit for this to work, and then I also had to adjust the OctoPi up-to-date scripts a bit for everything to work. But now that builds as well, and everything is fine. What I couldn't get to work yet is the version of OctoPi up-to-date with new camera stack. The reason for that is not actually my fault, but the thing is that Camera Streamer, the webcam streaming software that we use on this new camera stack, is sadly apparently abandoned, and currently it doesn't even build anymore on CI, not because of bugs in the software, but because the build environment changed so much, and there are now weird issues with QEMU, segfaulting, and whatnot. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of work trying to get to the bottom of this, and given that Camera Streamer is apparently abandoned, no commits in the last year or more now, no reaction by the maintainer anymore, and also one big blocking bug that actually has been the reason why this has not become the standard camera stack yet. Yeah, with all of that, I have to say maintaining that Camera Streamer branch of the up-to-date image is a quite frustrating experience all in all. It's also not like I can just compile a Camera Streamer binary cross-compile it here on my machine or something like that, and throw it in the image and be fine with it, because there is the additional problem that the lib camera ABI is not stable. So whenever lib camera gets an update pushed, and that is completely outside of our control that is being done. I'm not sure if this is done by the Raspberry Pi people or who does this, but in any case, every time that gets an update, it can break existing binaries that linked against it. So that is why I set up automatic builds on CI that detect if a new lib camera version is pushed in the Raspberry Pi software repositories, and then compiles the Camera Streamer binary against that, and then also created an actual apt repository for OctoPrint just to be able to push Camera Streamer into there, so that if you do an apt update and apt upgrade on your Raspberry Pi with the Camera Streamer, things would not explode and leave you stranded with a no longer operational camera server. But yeah, sadly, that is currently not working because the whole CI is not working. And yeah, so I'm currently honestly not sure if I should invest the time and effort to somehow make this work again, given that the project is apparently abandoned. And a maintenance nightmare in general. And yeah, so but that is not a decision that I can make right now. And that is actually something that I will look into once 1.11 is finally out. Try to make an informed decision there on how to proceed. Maybe the answer is actually switching horses and trying to find another server which is still supported, works with the new Raspberry Pi camera, works with lib camera, and is also performant and offers a snapshot API and streaming video, preferably not through MJPEG. So you see that is a lot of requirements, and Camera Streamer was a perfect fit for those. Everything else I've looked at through the years wasn't, but we'll probably have to live with some changes in that regard and maybe figure some stuff out, like, I don't know, having some snapshots generated from the video feed or something like that if push comes to shove. I don't know yet. I'll have to look into that after 1.11 is out. Yeah, another thing that I also did but while I was rolling out the last RC, I ran into some issues with the issue tracker because GitHub changed some things, and now I could no longer even create issues myself that don't follow a template which I was using for the feedback template. So I had to for the feedback ticket. So I had to create a bunch of new templates. Please don't use those. Those are only for maintainers. And while doing that, I also streamlined the issue reporting template a bit, and also not wrote a new tool, but rather extended an existing action that I created a while ago for basically processing system info bundles that you upload on issues. So either as part of the initial issue or as part of a comment that you post. The action then used to see that there was an issue and that there was a system info bundle in there, and post a link for that to the bundle viewer so that you could quickly click on that and be able to view the contents of the bundle. What I've now done is I've extended this whole action that it will actually put a summary of the information contained in the bundle in a footnote into the post or into the comment that contained the bundle, and that also works for multiple bundles. So if there is 3 bundles, then you will get 3 footnotes, something like this. And that will extract the OctoPrint version, OctoPy version, if it is there, Python version, stuff like that. So all of the stuff that so far I asked you manually to input manually into the issue form is now getting pulled from the bundle, which makes the bundle even more important to provide. But that also means it can be removed from the form, and that is something that I plan to do later this month, and probably once 1.11 is out as well. And that will hopefully make the whole issue form a bit less scary. Like, pretty much what I expect from you there is telling me what went wrong in steps that I can actually follow, not just it broke, please fix. Preferably also why you expected things to work differently, because sometimes that also helps in discovering that maybe you are doing something wrong there. So that's the 2 first parts of the form. I need you to actually test if things are also broken in safe mode. This is also why that is a part of the issue form. And then I, of course, need logs. I need information about the version you're running and the runtime environment that OctoPrint is running in, and all of that. Operating system. So as much information as possible, so that I can, if I cannot reproduce your problem right away, I at least have an idea on the environment in which you were able to reproduce it, so that I can try to recreate this environment and maybe find the problem that way. That is why all of this information is asked there. That is not why I'm trying to annoy people or are trying to create busy work so that people get scared away from reporting bugs. No, it's just because I need all of that to be able to actually start working on something. And in my experience, if I don't have this right away, the chances that I will still get it are quite slim, because a lot of people will report a bug never to be seen again. So please, if you report a bug, also be prepared to answer any questions that I might have, and try things that I might suggest, or anyone else for that matter who comments, not just me. But yeah, so the idea is here that to reduce the amount of stuff that you have to manually put into a form by just providing the thing that you are supposed to provide anyhow, which is the system info bundle, and then extract all of this information from that. If you create the system info bundle through a web browser, OctoPrint will also include the info about this web browser, that like which version and such, in the bundle as well, and that will also get extracted. So even the browser is something. The only thing that it doesn't include currently is the printer hardware, because that is not something that I can extract automatically in any way. So that field will stay, but everything else I will try to leave to the responsibility of the system info bundle parser, and if push comes to shove, we'll have to ask. But yeah, so that will hopefully make things a bit easier for everyone. And I'm also still amazed that I was able to do that whole parsing and information extraction just in Bash. But that's more like nerd pride than anything else here. Yeah, so, and what else did I do? Yeah, it doesn't end here. Yeah, so the usual maintenance, orga, and admin overhead as well. And I guess that's not something new, that this is always happening and always ongoing, like accounting and taking care of the sticker shipments and checking the forums and answering questions on the Discord or wherever, and also some maintenance here and there, tooling maintenance. Yeah, sometimes my VS Code needs an update as well, and afterwards some extensions no longer work, and then I spend half a day trying to hunt down why that is the case. So, you know, the usual madness. Okay, and that about was the past month plus of my life. What are the next steps? So, this time, hopefully, really the final release of 1.11.0. I hope I did not jinx it again. RC7 has now been out for testing for 1.5 weeks, something like that. And so far, I only got positive feedback. And I really hope that this is it now. Because frankly, constantly having to split my attention between 1.11 and 1.12 for this long, and we are now talking, like, I pushed out the first release candidate, I think, in late January. So we are now almost at 3 months straight of a release candidate phase, and that is taking a toll on me, to be honest. Like, it's just a lot of additional... It's taking up a lot of additional space in my head, and that is, and the constant context switches are also not making things easier. So the earlier this is done and out and released, the better, actually. Another thing that I really want to do is obviously finish the refactoring of the printer file support that I mentioned, so that all of this tech debt is also removed for good, finally. And that will then be the point when I can actually look into implementing a first alternative connector. And my idea here is trying to make OctoPrint compatible to Moonraker, to the Moonraker API. So the thing here is that a ton of printers are now out there who have some version of Clipper on it. Usually not the latest, and sometimes even not an actual released version, but something that shouldn't be called Clipper, I think, because it's something vendor specific. But a ton of them are shipping with Moonraker on them as well, and which is like an API layer on top of Clipper that talks to Clipper through the direct port in there, and then exposes the stuff through an HTTPI and WebSocket. The word was gone, and a WebSocket interface. And that is also what Mainsail and Fluid are actually using to provide the whole web interface on top. So there are no backends involved there apart from Mainsail. So the idea here is that if we create a printer connector inside OctoPrint that talks to Moonraker, sorry, not to Mainsail, to Moonraker, then we and preferably even a Moonraker with an exposed Clipper serial, sorry, with an exposed serial port, Clipper serial port, because that will enable way more functionality than the pure Moonraker API, but that is a bit of a developer thing, and I'm not sure that we can actually manage that. But the idea really is all of these printers should have a somewhat normal interface with regards to what like the basic Moonraker interface. So if we can use this basic interface to connect OctoPrint to it, then you have the option to use all of OctoPrint's plugins with your Clipper enabled Clipper stack included printer, which you currently cannot, because usually you have no way to actually directly connect to the Clipper host running on that printer and have to go through Moonraker. So that is the idea here, and that is frankly something that I'm feeling a lot of push to do, because around Christmas I actually bought myself one of these printers myself, and I'm missing OctoPrint, if I'm honest. So that is actually, I bought that thing in order to do this, because that is basically my test hardware here. So and that would be that. This will be something that I hope, I think I said this last time already, but just to repeat it here, that is something that I hope will be part of 1.12. And it might actually be the only big feature that ships with 1.12. This whole new connection layer in between to enable stuff like that. Because that, I think, will also help with a bunch of other changes currently on the market. I'm seeing so many vendors currently pushing proprietary stuff and their own platforms, and apart from, of course, it worrying me because it makes me think about OctoPrint's future, it's also something where I'm really not happy with as a consumer myself, because I want choice. I don't want the vendor to dictate what I'm allowed to use, and what kind of functionality I'm allowed to use without subscriptions or some stuff like that. So this is my attempt to keep stuff open and free, and I hope it succeeds. I hope people will, when this stuff is out with 1.12, then will also help with regards to implementing new connectors and enable the use of even proprietary printers, like the whole great. Yeah, as you know, I'm really not on top of my game here. My head is a bit stuffed with wool, and I'm constantly forgetting words here. But give me a second. Bamboo, yeah, sorry. That will also enable something like a direct connector for talking to Bamboo Labs printers or something like that. So, but that is something where the community will have to step in, because I'm not getting one of these here. I don't buy proprietary printers. Sorry, that's a personal rule. And yeah, so that is the goal for the foreseeable future, actually working on that, apart from getting 1.11 shipped and hopefully stable, of course. And yeah, that would be that. That is actually all that I have for you today, but I think it was enough, I hope, at least. Next one of these will be sometime in May. I'll try to figure it out when I actually find the time to do that. And then I will, of course, first release it on Patreon and um, and on GitHub sponsors, and then a week or so after it gets a public release, like this one as well will. Yeah, and with that being said, all that's left to say is, as always, thanks for being here. I hope it was interesting and you found the one or other thing about which you are excited about, maybe. And as always, just stay healthy, happy printing, and also happy Easter. Bye.